So as I'm sure most of you have seen by now, the Memphis Grizzlies have let Dillon Brooks and his camp know that he will not be returning to the team next season under no circumstances, which I thought was pretty hilarious that they had to emphasize under no circumstances, even though it was reported that this was a mutual decision because Brooks wanted a bigger role on the team that the Grizzlies simply could not give him because, you know, it wasn't all the dumb antics, the trash talking, getting in fights with players, and trying to be this fake villain for his own publicity. That had nothing to do with it, of course. Oh, and of course him shooting the Grizzlies out of the series and losing in the first round to the Lakers had nothing to do with it as well. But either way, I've seen a lot of Bulls fans on Twitter saying, hey, we should go get Dillon Brooks. He's a free agent. He's not going to be re-signing with his team. Probably could get him for cheap because not a lot of teams are going to want to take on the headache that comes with him. And hey, for his flaws, he's a hustle player on defense and shoots threes on a high volume. But to all of that, I reply, hell no. No, I want nothing to do with Dillon Brooks. I want him nowhere close to my team, and I'll explain why in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, if you've been following my second channel, the NBA channel, and One Hoops, you're probably getting sick of me talking about the Memphis Grizzlies and Dillon Brooks, as two of my most recent videos were on these topics after the Grizzlies got eliminated from the playoffs, and then, of course, after the team said they wouldn't be bringing Brooks back on the roster. But bear with me here, because this one will be a little bit different in that we're going to be comparing this one to the Bulls, because for the life of me, I cannot figure out why so many Bulls fans would want Dillon Brooks on this roster. And I know some have been saying, well, we're already bad. This wouldn't hurt. We're a poverty franchise. Beggars can't be choosers. But so does that mean we're just supposed to just accept continuing being lousy and going after all the unwanted free agents? I've seen others say, well, bringing in Brooks would actually help with the lack of grit and softness of this team. Let me tell you something. Brooks is not hard. As much as he likes to give off this persona that he's some tough guy and bad boy, he's not. He talks a lot of trash, is super cocky, and can't back it up on the court. It would be one thing if he did all of these things and could actually back up the talk with his play, but he doesn't. The other thing with bringing in a player like Dillon Brooks is the fit. Brooks does not fit what this team needs. Now, to be fair, I know I'm kind of just trashing Brooks here, but he does have some great aspects of his game that are valuable. As I mentioned, he's a hustle player on defense. For the most part, a pretty lockdown defender on the perimeter. I wouldn't say he's like an all-defensive team level defender, but he's up there. And yes, what I do appreciate about Brooks is that he plays hard. He'll give you maximum effort, which is something I wish I could say about a lot of guys on the Bulls roster. But at the same time, he's been so bad offensively this past season, with terrible in-game awareness. That's the last thing this Bulls team needs when you consider the fact that the Bulls were actually good on defense this past season, finishing top 5 in the league in defensive rating, and were awful on offense, finishing 24th in the league. Dillon Brooks, I hate to say this, kind of like DeMar DeRozan and Zach Lavine at times, gets extreme tunnel vision and wanting to take over games on offense with very poor shot selection and not getting his teammates involved. The biggest difference here, though, is that Lavine and DeRozan are actually elite scorers and significantly better players than Brooks, so you can live with them doing that at times. We don't need another player thinking they can just take over the game, playing iso ball and chucking up threes with no consideration for the pace and flow of the game. I said this in my video on the NBA channel, but Dillon Brooks had one of the most inefficient seasons in the NBA last year among qualifying players. Out of 200 players in the association that qualify based on the number of games and minutes played on the year, out of 200 of them, Brooks finished 196th in true shooting percentage this past season. That is horrible for an NBA starter. He had one of the lowest PERs in the league, below 10. You don't see that often. And while I know some will say, well, hey, he can shoot threes, the Bulls need more three-point shooters. Yeah, he can shoot them, but on terrible efficiency. The man shot 6 threes per game last season, but on 32%. He shot below 40% from the field overall on over 13 attempts per game. That is really, really bad in today's NBA, where players have become so efficient on offense, more so than we have ever seen in the past. I mean, Brooks' numbers this past season are down across the board. Scoring, passing, free throw shooting, even his defense hasn't been as good as it has been in the past. And look, the poor play aside for a minute, just put that aside. Part of the reason the Grizzlies don't want to bring this guy back is because of the target this man has placed on their backs and wanting to be this hated team, wanting to be this bad boy team. They were at a culture crisis when you consider the on-court and off-court drama this team was creating. They were quickly becoming one of the most unlikable teams in the NBA, and they didn't want to be that anymore. They don't want to be that team that their opponents come out with a little extra motivation to take out the Grizzlies because of how annoying their players are. They don't want to be known as this team that is getting into fights with other players around the league, getting handed fines, penalties, suspensions. Like, you can have all the talent in the world, but what does it matter when your off-court antics don't allow you to stay focused on the game? Like, do the Bulls really want that? They already have a bit of an issue in terms of their overall culture and identity. You think Dillon Brooks is really going to help that? No. He's going to make it worse both on the court, with him being a liability on offense, and off the court with his fake tough guy persona talking to the media, trying to get players all riled up. Also, one of the biggest pieces I didn't even mention that seems to be overlooked in all this is the Bulls don't have the cap space to sign him anyway. Not if they're wanting to bring back Vucevic and Coby White. And even if they don't bring those guys back, they still have very limited space to sign outside free agents because they were already operating as an over-the-cap team. As much as people are saying, well, you can just sign Brooks to a min deal or the mid-level exception, I do think he'll actually be getting an offer that is better than that from at least one team in the NBA that does have cap space, like the Houston Rockets or even the Charlotte Hornets, in which case the Bulls wouldn't even be able to offer to bring him in. Unless you're talking about a sign-and trade, which I swear, if the Bulls, in addition to signing him to a bigger contract, also give up assets to get him, I may just have to take a break from following this team for a while because, Jesus Christ, that would be such an awful decision for a team that is in need of some serious changes, and I'm sorry, but Dillon Brooks is not it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you want to see Brooks in a Bulls uniform despite my ranting about not wanting him? Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.